Hello, darling. I was thinking some stuff, and it seemed worth sharing. I was thinking about making lists and how I ought to do more of it, but also about how a list is normally the tip of an iceberg. I may have mentioned before that I grew up with only 3 channels on the telly back in the 1970s, before VHS and DVD and streaming and, well, frankly, YouTube. We used to be able to go into school or into work and talk about what had been on TV last night, and lots of people would have seen the same things you had. Then all the everything happened, the explosion, and now we have the choices. So many of the choices. Now we scroll through screen after screen of options, and many of us have experienced that sense of paralysis that comes from being over-choiced. Giving us the choices felt like a good idea at the time. There were people who didn't like the idea, but they were mostly the people who had benefited from the old order, so they may have been biased. Most of us were enthusiastic about the choices. If this had been a democracy, many of us, have voted for the choices. This is not just a discussion about streaming services. The internet and other technologies have given us far more choices than just what to watch and listen to. We have a far greater range than we used to now of things that we might spend our money on or things that we might spend our time on. As someone who retired fairly recently, I have been very much enjoying having more time for leisure. I won't deny, though, that I have sometimes felt spoiled for choice. Now that I can do what I please, what pleases me? It's a question that I've been pondering over this last year. It feels like a nice problem to have, but it also challenges me. It's good to be challenged. It feels like a question that's worth repeatedly coming back to. I'm doing my best to regularly check in with myself about how this is all going. As I write this, Christmas is coming. For many people, the holiday season is a time for lists. Lists of which people we still need to buy gifts for. Lists of what we need to get at the supermarket for the big family feast. Lists of what we want for Christmas. And then, as we enter that liminal interregnum of Twixtmas, maybe lists of resolutions for the new year. Many of us have something of a love-hate relationship with lists, which can be mostly blamed on the tyranny of the to-do list. I do think, though, that people sometimes underestimate the skill that they put into building their lists. Naively, they believe that the purpose of the list is to have everything on it. It's an easy mistake to make, but we're actually navigating a complex set of choices when we write our to-do lists. Obviously, it varies from list to list, but often we are searching our memories for tasks that fit a very particular set of criteria. The task needs to feel important enough. There will often be consequences if it gets forgotten. There also needs to be some chance that it will be forgotten. Very few to-do lists include meals or toilet breaks. Hundreds of trivial and minor tasks which need to get done and will absolutely always end up getting done do not get a mention on the to-do list. A brief verbal check-in with a colleague at the desk next to you may be essential to the running of your business, but if it always happens naturally without either of you needing to schedule it, then it won't end up on your to-do list. I am fascinated by these kinds of hidden skills that people don't even realise they have. A skill at list making is a valuable thing, and yet many of the best list makers are probably oblivious to the level of skill they are displaying. It makes me wonder about how many other skills we miss completely, or just take for granted, as we use them to more deftly navigate the choices of modern life. One quality that a good list should certainly have is to be of a manageable length. Once again, the point here is that the most effective lists do not have everything on them. When the sheer scale of the task before you just makes you want to pull the duvet over your head, then the best way to scale it down is often to pick a few tiny parts of that task and focus just on them. Like a horse putting on its own blinkers, we can avoid being spooked by the elephant in the room if we focus our gaze exclusively on just one small plate of bite-sized elephant pieces. This brings us back to streaming services. Whenever you get frustrated by your inability to view a full list of everything currently on Netflix, just remember that the algorithm, frustrating though it is trying to be your friend. It wants to save you from the paralysis of too many choices. It's trying, albeit incompetently, to give you a short, manageable selection of what you might want to see next. Actually, the reason why lists are so inadequate at encoding information is that they are fundamentally very one-dimensional. A list with nested bullet points does flirt with 2 dimensions, I grant you, but lists really are the wrong data structure to use if you're trying to model a complex network of connections. If you find yourself frustrated when trying to make a list with everything on it and then trying to put that list in the right order, then trust me, it's not because you're bad at it. It's because lists are inherently bad at it. You never need one big list, but lots of little lists can be a joy. So my first New Year's resolution this time round is to make more lists. I don't know yet precisely what that's going to look like, because frankly that would spoil the surprise. If what it looks like feels worth sharing, then I'm sure you'll get to hear about it. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about this week, and I thought it felt worth sharing. See you soon.